Hi, my name is Catherine Messick, coming to you live from Lee Summit, Missouri, just on the other side of the state line, and this is the Lives Worth Living thread. To begin with, how did institutionalization impact the disability rights movement? I think that the horrors and the atrocities of some of the videos and the documentation that was coming out of these facilities really moved the American people to realize that, people shouldn't be treated that way. Even JFK comes out and says that these places are absolutely awful and that human beings should be basically treated a lot differently. I think also maybe the little clip about the man in the iron lung being so well spoken. These were people who had disabilities, but not necessarily cognitive impairments. And so just because they had a physical disability, they were treated as less than a citizen. And I think that when you have these very well-spoken people advocating for themselves, I think that that kind of changed some people's minds and made the American public think, okay, maybe things do need to change. The advocates and peaceful protesters in this link talk about having a vision. What motivated this vision and what did it entail and has it achieved? They expected the world to change and they wanted it to change for them. And they wanted to change how people viewed the disability community and that they weren't less than, they were equal citizens and they deserve the rights to be able to access public facilities and have proper education and employment opportunities and not have to worry about just being disabled as their only way of being known to the world. And so I think that they had a compelling need to seek change, and each person had a story to tell. And so they sought that sympathy and empathy from the American public. One of the commentators in the clip talks about what President George H.W. Bush signing the document, comparing it to the Emancipation Proclamation for individuals with disabilities. Well, the Emancipation Proclamation, which was signed by Abraham Lincoln on New Year's Day, and what was that, 1863, I want to say, basically stated that slaves were free now. And I think that when you compare that to the Americans with Disabilities Act, suddenly now these disabled persons are free to be able to live their lives. They can now access a government facility. They can go to City Hall and be able to access City Hall without having to have someone access it for them, or without having to figure out how to get a wheelchair upstairs, because now you have to require facilities that can actually accommodate these people. They can get into, they have access to public restrooms. They have access to all kinds of facilities, any sort of stadium. They can go to games and not have to worry about not having access to be able to sit and enjoy a football game. These are small things that we take for granted, those of us who are not disabled, but the disabled community, their access to be able to move about our community is vital. And so, yeah, I can kind of see that comparison being made and it being pretty appropriate for the way that they had been, basically withheld from all of these facilities and activities and ways to enjoy life. And another commentator in the clip reminds us how discrimination grew over centuries and mentions how difficult it is to eradicate even with legislation in place. How might you and your future leadership role cultivate an educational community and or environment where the potential for discrimination is fully acknowledged and or addressed? Letter versus spirit of the law. Okay, so in our reading this past week in the Does Compliance Matter in Special Education textbook, it talks about how you can abide by the actual letter of the law, but that the spirit of the law is still being lost. And I think that even in today's society, you still have that where, okay, well, we're accommodating, but we're not really understanding that that accommodation is more than just, here's your education, here's your IP, here's your wheelchair ramp, without having that empathy and sympathy part, and really understanding what it's like to be a human being who needs help. You're missing out on the spirit of the law. The whole point of this was to make them feel like a valued member of the community. And so I think that as an administrator or a leader within the school, I think your number one priority is to create some sort of professional development that really kind of fosters and makes people understand that the spirit of the law is just as important as the letter of the law. And you need to be able to interpret that not only within your own space and in an appropriate manner that way, but that you need to also be able to really view them as humans and as people who have needs and wants and goals and ideas, and to be able to really see them as your equal. And so I think that professional development, really having an open dialogue amongst the staff about their thoughts and feelings about, disabilities and how to accommodate in classrooms and how to really help those that, we are here to help in education. I think that's it. So go Chiefs, by the way.